Okay. So anyway, welcome back to YouTube, guys. The Fairy Corner, as you could call it. Trying new Fairy decks. Going through more of an analytical point of view. Kind of discussing higher points that I kind of miss when I'm playing in real time. So going back and learning from these games really helps me grow as a player. It's an activity I've done for a long time, and I just thought it'd be cool to kind of share that process with you guys. So we get this. This is a horrible starting hand. So we're gonna mulligan. This is not a good This is not a good hand either. But okay. So we have some decisions here to make. We have 2 lands. We're going to keep this, and then we're going to throw back the counterspell and the borrower. And we're going to do that because we are going to go... We're going to go ham on the fact that we can create a board and then kill something of theirs. Now, it's very possible that this needed to be a counterspell, and I believe that is the case. That we should have kept the counterspell because they put nothing on board. So, if we're going to 5, we're happy they're slow. We then turn 1 Sleepy. They tap land. We are exactly where we thought we'd be. Now, this is an interesting deck in general. Because he's playing Infect, Proliferate. And this by itself is just worth going back and looking at. Okay, just to see this archetype exist. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to discuss how this deck functions. And do I think it's good? Do I think it's tier 1? Absolutely not. But it's cool. It's cool to know that decks like this exist. So we have prologue to Physis. I forget how it's not Stasis. So anyway, we have this to where each opponent gets a poison counter, draw a card. Okay, this is kind of how it starts. So what I found out is through this deck and playing this deck is you're okay until you get the first poison counter, and then every time they proliferate, you just get another poison counter on top of it. So we'll go from here. So he gives me a poison counter, and at the time, I didn't think much of it. So we get a token. Sleepy gets closer to coming off. Okay, so we then Bowmasters because we realize that whatever this dude, if he's doing it poison, he's doing it fast. Okay, because infect and things like that. So we bring in this. Okay, we untap it because we don't want to play the other Blossom, even though we could, and we might as well have done this. Because if we know he's going the poison counter route, then we know our life total is probably going to be okay. And then this is just going to help out. But I want to keep Fatal Push up just to go that way. So then he prisms. This is important to his engine. Proliferate. So every time he proliferates, he's going to put counters on this, and he's going to put counters on this. And then there's other lands that he has, like this Fungal Reaches. He's going to put a storage counter on that. And he's just going to, once he gets one on there, he's just going to keep putting mana into this. And then he can spend 1 mana to then remove all the counters and do crazy stuff with it. It's pretty cool. It's a cool engine. So all he needs is 1 counter and then starts playing his proliferate spells. If he lives that long. The question is can he live that long? And if you're going against like a ring deck or something like this is a perfect way to kill your opponent, because if they just die of poison, the ring don't stop that. Now it does stop you from being targeted. That is one thing, but if it's proliferate, it doesn't stop that. So we draw a drown, and then we just swing with everything because we saw the writing on the wall that this was going to be a race. He then plays this Flux Channeler. First time I've seen it. Whenever you guys a non-creature spell, you proliferate. And then that's when I was like, you know what? This guy's doing some weird stuff. And I let him have his fun. This is what I do in Magic. I let people have their fun. because, you know, okay, you can have that. And then he plays this to put another poison counter on and draw a card. And then he's going to make a new poison counter. And then he's going to put another counter here. And he's going to put another counter here. He's just going to keep doing that over and over again. And it becomes a little storm deck. Now the question is he can kill you in two different ways. He's either playing a grape shot, and I don't know this for a fact. He's either playing a grape shot, or he's playing like just going off these counters for poison counters, which is fine. Either way is okay. So, and we just finish out the game. You're going to see him just do this. I get fed up because I don't want him to get started on this, because if I'd let him keep going, every time he casts one of these cards, you know, I'm getting 2 poison counters every time he does this, and he's getting all this mana to just keep drawing cards. We don't want that. So I'm just going to stop it before it happens. I see the writing on the wall, and I end it. So, lesson learned. We got out of it. So we sideboard more aggressively, something to stop the combo. And then we go to game 2. So if you enjoy the content, let me know in the comments for sure. So if you really like this deck, tell me how much you like this deck, because it's cool. Super cool. All right. So we're gonna go back here. We don't get the best hand in the world, but it's not the worst either. It has lands, and we have stuff to do in turn 2, and a counter that he's going to fill up his graveyard quite quickly, so this drown is going to be effective. The subtlety is going to be... it's probably the worst part in the hand, but it'll come into play later. So he plays Thirsting Roots, search for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in his hand, Proliferate. So obviously he wants to proliferate off this card, probably most of the time. But, you know, it's not a bad thing to keep your land drops consistent a little bit. And it's 1 mana Proliferate. So, you know, in his deck, very good. So, because we know we can't do anything turn 1, we just go ahead and we concede to our tap land. Prisms. So his engine's online. We know that now. So we let it go. We're still playing Flash Fairies. He does second Prism, so Prism time, like engine times 2. So I'm thinking this is going to be like almost as efficient as a like Amulet Titan type of thing. So he also has a Fungal Reaches, and he also has a Gemstone Mine that he can all proliferate to, which is going to show up here after he resolves the spell. So he just did that and does it again. Okay, we then put the Bowmasters in play, so anytime he draws a card, he just quickens his demise. So we attack, land, pass. So his bread and butter to this deck is this creature. The fact that he double proliferates off of every non-creature spell. So, because all of his non-creature spells have proliferate. Imagine that. So, or even if he plays another Prism, he basically gives all his non-creature spells proliferate. That's what it says on top of it. So we go ahead and counter that, and we wait. So he then Contentious Plan, proliferates and draws a card. We then ping him, make our dude bigger. We do it again. He's making more mana. So it's a cool little engine. It really is. So we attack. The Subtlety's online. The Duelist is online. Alright, we got this. I had to think whether I wanted to kind of put this back on top of his library or not. And I was really kind of surprised on the way he used it. I thought he would try to abuse this more. Because I really don't have a way to do with this other than bounce it. So we go here. He prisms. I duelist. And then I land. I attack. And he chumps. Now, this chump is like kind of astounding to me because you're sitting there, you're trying. The whole reason of this is to go all like to remove spore counters and just proliferate. So by you blocking says that you don't have trust that you're gonna survive in 2 turns if you don't block this turn, which is kind of. I don't think that's the case at all. Because him taking 3 more damage, it goes to 6. Yeah, that's exacties, and he has to block next turn. But he could proliferate 3 times and sack this. He just removes the counters. And then he adds more mana. So I think this was the mistake by him. But, thank you for the follow. And then he breaks out the Urabrask. Now, this thing's not bad. Like, this thing's bad in, like, limited if you played it a couple sets ago. In March Machines. But it's bad in draft. It's not horrible, but it's not the best either. It's really hard to, like, get off, but in this particular deck, the Sacred Rex, it's just really good. So of course, I can't let that happen. So I settled it. I put him back to Selfie's library. He concedes. I probably should have let him go off and do it. I should have. But I didn't. Because, I don't know, I just didn't. I had the card in my hand, and I was like, why not? So, this was completely off stream. But I wanted to show you guys the fun that I was having. And the cool deck I ran into. So this will be up in YouTube in a couple days or so. But anyway, I just wanted to share with you and kind of go through some cool things that I saw. And so there's plenty to do in this game and Magic. You don't have to win the same ways. But his engine was working. The thing is, this engine can work with something else. It can work with a Storm deck. Do I think Urabrask is where this deck needs to be? Probably not. Could he play like an infect shell on top of what he's doing already with like other infect creatures? Yeah, probably could. Could he play like some toxic stuff? Yeah, probably could. With the mites. He's spending. He has so much mana available. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8. So he has 8 mana in just counters, plus 3 land. So he has like 10 or 11 mana to use on turn 6. So that's. Oh yeah, that's why I do it. That's why I do it, Tricky. I'm kind of. I've noticed that it's one thing for me to sit there and play live games and live Magic and explain my thought process in the moment. But sometimes that's not good enough, in my opinion. Sometimes I even need a day to go back and watch the games. And it just made more sense. It makes more sense the next day to me of why I did what I did, or I probably shouldn't have done that. So this helps me. This is what I've done for years to be a better Magic player, is to go back through my games and look what happened, why it happened, and how can I stop that from happening again, if I can. Do I have control over it? Which is a very control thing to say, control player thing to say, but it's true. It's the way I think about Magic in the game. We go and select these points, and then what I can do is I can kind of, how did this all come about? And how did I get to this point, and how don't I ever get here again? And that's how you evaluate cards correctly too, by doing that. So, just you got to be mindful of it. And if you don't go back and study yourself, no one else is going to do that for you. So, You know, they're at, somebody might point out, oh well, you made this mistake. Yes, I made this mistake, but I made the 3 mistakes before that that made this mistake the one that really stands out. And that's what I'm getting at, is like these were a line of decisions that came to this very bad decision, instead of, I could have not done that a long time ago, and now I know not to do that, to take another line if there is one, and then just kind of see how often does that happen. You know, does it happen a lot? Does it happen a lot? You know, what are my probabilities of us getting back in that situation? Because I might play it a certain way just because it has a higher probability of being good. And as decks change and cards change within those decks, you're always kind of, those probabilities of things happening in the way they do always change slightly. Not all the time, but sometimes. So, I mean, there are cards that just stay the same.